Welcome back to another episode of the HU Flow podcast. Different setup because me and Marilyn are at two different locations. I'm here at the main campus at Harrisburg University. Marilyn is in her new lovely apartment in Philadelphia. So we're at two different spots. So if our setup's weird, it's because we're mobile. But welcome back to another episode of HU Flow. As always, for your host is Stephen and Marilyn. And today on the podcast we have Jason. Now, Jason is a very special character here because he did a lot of things here at Harrisburg University, and we will have to have him on, talk to him about his life, see what he's doing and everything. So, Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. So, first thing, just to get our audience to know you a little bit, is what did you do at Harrisburg University, and when did you graduate?
So at Harrisburg University, I spent 4 years here on the esports team, and I ended up graduating this last semester in May.
Cool. What did you major in, and can you give us a brief kind of idea of what that major entitles?
So I majored in MIBA, and pretty much it's basically business. Anything you want to know about business, but we labeled it as MIBA.
Jason, where are you from and where did you go to high school?
So I grew up in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, which is about probably an hour and a half, like east of Harrisburg, about maybe an hour before Philly, or a little less than an hour. And I went to Pottstown Senior High School, and you know, that was an experience. Little unique thing though is like when I came to HU, I was a couple years out of high school, so like 4 at that point, because I spent some time just working, or I went to a different school first, and that didn't really work out for me. And I spent some time. I spent some time going pro in Overwatch before, uh, fully committing to going to college and going to HU.
So that's a pretty good overview. But I know that you went to culinary school. But before you decided to make that decision, um, what sort of was like high school life for you? Did you see yourself going into esports at the time, or was it like because esports was pretty new then? So did you have like an idea that you were going to go into that, or what drove you to culinary school?
So out of high school, I didn't like ever think I would ever be involved in esports. It's just kind of like the only thing I really knew about it was I would watch like a pro League of Legends match every once in a while, and then it's like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I'll never be that good. But and then like 2016 is when Overwatch came out, and then just I don't know, somehow I was pretty good at it, and then one thing led to another. You know, I don't recommend this, but I kind of dropped out of my first college in pursuit of going pro, because I kind of just let my grades slip, because I wasn't I realized I wasn't too actually passionate for what I was going to school for, which was culinary. And I kind of just ignored it, focused on my actual passion, which was esports. And you know I would say I got pretty lucky at the end of the day, being able to actually go back to college after messing up the first time. And but I'm glad I did mess up, because I wouldn't have learned that I didn't like culinary, so I would have had a degree in something I didn't like.
That's true. Not I was just having a conversation with my roommate earlier today that she did nursing and I didn't like really realize until last week how much she hated it. And most people go through with like a full degree that they just don't like. And a lot of that
Yep.
is the opportunity that they have, and college is very expensive and it's kind of a risky gamble at times. So in a way, you were able to pivot onto esports, which sounds completely ridiculous to some people. I'll put it that way.
I
Just
definitely
because,
didn't plan it that way either. It just kind of I just stumbled into that. I got really lucky, so
especially with like, what did you say, 2016? it being so new, and culinary school is just something that people already know, like, how that works. So esports being, like, a complete gamble at the time sort of paid off for you in that sense. And then how did you come across Harrisburg University specifically? Was there any other, schools, or were you even looking at school for esports?
Um, so kind of like 6 months before I came to Harrisburg, because I actually joined spring semester rather than a fall semester, which is kind of irregular for a college student and all that. But I was friends with a lot of the players on um, Maryville University, which if you follow collegiate esports, they're one of the top contenders for esports in the space. And I was friends with that entire team because many of them I had played on pro teams before they were on Maryville, and I was looking at their competition because like I wanted to get into the collegiate space, but they didn't have a spot on their team for me. So I was like, well, maybe I can join a different team. And then all of a sudden, somebody I'm really close to is actually still on the Harrisburg University team, Austin Hobbs. Um, I was on a team with him in the past. I've known him for like 6 years now. And he sent me a link to the recruitment that Harrisburg University was having on Twitter, and I ended up signing up for it. And that's kind of how I discovered HU, got on the team, all that sort of fun stuff. And I ended up being roommates with my friend of, before 2 years, but now 6 years, um, which was a really, really cool experience.
That's so cute. Aw. So, yeah, that's a great like transition and definitely something that you didn't see coming. So now I'll pass it back over to Steven for more on your esports career.
So, as we know, esports is competitive online. Well, it can be online, but it's usually, I think a lot of you guys prefer to be on, I think the term LAN, like to be actually on
Yep.
in person, because online
In-person
can have
tournament. Yep.
like, because from what I've seen from online experiences for gaming, especially esports, it's very tricky, especially because people are different locations. The ping can be different. That could affect the gameplay, all that stuff. So, but specifically with Overwatch, its competitive scene's been around longer than a lot of the other ones. When it came to when you first joined the team, what was the experience like for you? Like, what was your first year like?
I'd say my first year at Harrisburg was probably it would go down in my life as probably one of the favorite time periods of my life. Um, I Our team was like the six best friends, and we would literally do everything together. And then as years went on, some of the players moved on to other things, left the team for this that or X Y or Z reason, blah blah blah. So we kind of like we're bringing in new players. We had to rebuild that synergy, and it's always constant working on trying to rekindle what happened in that first year, and which we did manage to pull off in 2020 as well, with getting that second win in a row. But um, for me personally, it's never been that same um, enjoyment that I had out of that first semester. But um, you know,
Okay. Okay, because I mean, when you guys were first getting set up, I remember the lineups and all that stuff. You guys were dominating in the Overwatch League and at the time Hearthstone, and you guys were doing your thing. I know you guys won back-to-back champs for was it for the National Collegiate League, or correct me if I'm wrong.
pretty much the national
Right.
championship.
Right. So how does that like work? Because I know I'm assuming there's qualifiers to get into it, and then there's a playoffs, and then there's the actual championship experience. Is like does kind of like you guys follow that principle?
Pretty much. So the beginning, the beginning of a semester, typically the spring semester is the actual season, and then the fall semester is a preseason.
Mhm.
Um, the, the spring season is almost an all semester long normal seasonal matches to like kind of qualify for playoffs. You'll find out your seeding, or if you even make it at all. Um, then once you get seeded into the playoffs, then it's like single. I think it's single. No, this one was double. It's double elimination playoffs, and then like top 8. At least in 2019, before the era of COVID, we got to go to Houston, Texas, and play a LAN, which is what everyone really likes doing. They like that experience of traveling and getting to play in-person games, which is really, really fun. Probably one of the best experiences you can have as a player is to be able to travel for an event like that. And then you just play a bracket through the top 8 players or top 8 teams, and then we ended up pulling out a victory.
Dope. So then, for example, like because I know us at HU, we do the Hugh Invitational, or well, we used to switch up the names, either Hugh's Fest, Hugh Invitational, one of the two. So usually that's part of your preseason, I'm assuming, since it's not like something that counts towards the actual bracket. It's of
It's
the
just an
actual playoff.
individual tournament that we get to play. It's kind of like a lot of collegiate teams kind of see it as practice, like practice in their preseason.
Right.
But
I mean,
it's definitely it's one of the biggest LANs in the collegiate space that we host. I think I love the Heat tournament. It's always so much fun, and I get to see a bunch of friends come in from all across the world, America, whatever.
Yeah, come on, say it's a couple day experience where, like, I think, what was it? Is it 64 or 32 teams come through, and then you guys just compete in a series of bracket play just to qualify into the tournament, and then from there, I think the finals were always on like Saturdays.
I think it's
Um,
Sundays.
okay, it was Sundays. Okay, so I was like, it's one of the days because I think because the way I remember they switched it because the Hugh Fest, I think started like on Friday, and then the Hugh
Yeah.
Invitational started a different day. So like that's why I
So
always get confused.
they've been ironing it out as the years go along. Like I think
Right.
the Hugh Fest that first year, was the first time they ever ran it. So they realized how large scale that was and how difficult it was to manage. And they're like, oh, okay, next year we're going to do a little smaller. We're going to do like 32 teams, and they're going to qualify online this time rather than qualify in person. And I think they've even knocked it down even further this year. It's like only the top 8 go in person. And I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that one.
Gotcha.
I don't have to follow that anymore. I graduated.
That's understandable. I mean, yeah, you did graduate, and I mean, you kind of did a good thing during your time here on the team. And I mean, another question I was going to ask is kind of like, how important is it for a team to have, like, I guess in a way, all vibe together? Because I mean, you guys are playing and practicing probably a lot, and then on top of that, you got to balance your schoolwork, your education, all that stuff. So, how important it is that your team's all vibing together so that you guys can win games?
So I think a team that vibes together might be stronger than teams that are better than you in skill that don't vibe together. Because greatest example I'll ever have of this experience will be the 2019 championship. I can personally say, in my opinion, that we were not better individual players than Maryville University at that event. But we were better friends and a better team because of being better friends. And I think that is what pushed us to winning that championship. Not because
That's a quote.
of us being better individually, but because we were better friends.
I mean, I feel like in a lot of esports, like if you all are just vibing together and having fun, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to have fun playing. So I know it's supposed to be competitive experience. I know a lot of games that make like when they're grueling, when they're down like maybe 0-2 or 0-3 in the series, like it's tough to have fun. But if you're not have fun vibing together, I don't think you'll win. Like, yeah, you might not be the best, but you don't know what that takes you. So I think I like how you were explaining that. 'Cause I think it's important that teams are vibing together, at least actually trying to be closer with their teammates. Because if you're just trying to be like a work person to your teammates, be like, okay, I'm just here to do my job and get my money to get
Here for a
out,
9 to
or
5. Don't care about you guys.
exactly. If you're
Not
just
fun.
in that
Not
mentality,
fun.
I don't think it's going to do much. I mean, because from what I've seen, when I watch pro teams play, and outside of the collegiate scene, it's like when they have that mentality, like you can be on the top of the world and still fall down because, I mean, if you guys are not vibing, it's gonna look bad. So I always was curious about perspective on that, like how important it is to vibe together. And then my last question I'm going to ask before I pass it to Marilyn to kind of ask you some more college questions is like, since you're an esports player, on top of that, you had to balance out classes and all that stuff. So how did you kind of go about balancing that scale during your time at HU?
So the first 2 years, we actually might not be years, might be semesters, because then after COVID, things kind of went off the rails. But first 2 semesters, we were actually doing a thing where, like, about an hour before our practice would start, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, we had a thing called study hall. So it would really help us have like a place to go and do homework. Honestly, it did help some people, but I think it more became a way of like talking and bonding still. Like it was a mandatory hangout kind of. But for some people it did help. But and then off on my own, I kind of just like I would be able to complete my work after practice a lot because I usually would take the latest classes I could possibly, so after practice I could stay up and do my homework and then wake up at some kind of maybe weird times. I'd wake up, around noon, have my classes, and then start my day there, and then go to practice, come home, do homework, go to bed.
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, look, whatever works for you, the methods. I mean, it's not about how you start, how about how you finish. And I mean, it worked for you, and you graduate, so it all matters. So, makes sense, makes sense. I mean, now I'll pass it off to Marilyn if she has some set of questions for you.
I do. Yeah, so your homework. So,
This is
that's
not.
not
This is
shady.
unfair. She knows the
That's
most about
not
my homework.
shady, I promise.
It already sounds sus already.
Might I remind you, Jason and I were in business together, and I love group projects.
I
Those
did
are
a
my
good
two
job.
statements. Those are my two statements.
I was trying my
Okay.
hardest.
Yes,
Maybe not the last semester, but before then I was trying my hardest.
of course.
When that senioritis strikes, it's doomed.
I'm
He's not
pretty sure
wrong.
you and I would be like, what is going on? I
Well,
don't want to go to school.
come on. You know what class we're in, and we're not going to discuss that because
Both of them actually had group projects, so that's kind of hilarious. What did we
Yeah.
do? Oops. No, but my question to you was going to be more focused on I was going to ask you what's your favorite part about collegiate esports, or like what did you enjoy the most? But I'm not going to answer for you, but I think I know what you're going to say. You can answer that one. What was your favorite part about collegiate esports?
Well, now I want to know what you think after, but
I'll tell you after, yeah.
I think my favorite part was that it kind of just brought lifetime friends for me. Like we literally, this is gonna sound silly because I'm not really into the frat culture, but it felt like a gamer frat that I was in. We would do everything together, literally everything, and it was so fun. I will never forget some of those memories of some of the things that we were doing. And I will
I'll
not go.
never
I plead the fifth. I'm not going into detail.
I'll never forget when I walked. I would totally agree with the gamer frat, and I figured you were gonna say friendship of some sort, but not in that way. So I'm glad I didn't answer for you. But I'll never forget when I walked up and I walked into your room and you had this like stupid hat with the two soda cans or whatever, and it had the straws, and I was like,
Soda.
oh my god, soda. I'll never forget that. And I'm like, what on earth? I think I told you, I'm like, where do you think you are?
Wait, I thought that was actually beer, bro. I thought he was gonna say beer or something in there.
Soda, Steven.
soda. I
cans,
mean,
buddy.
It's like they kind of had that would have beer cans at a tailgate, of course, of which we did not have. But it was just like funny because you guys were still cultivating, like that frat boy culture. But it was so funny. No, but that's great. The
I used that image in a slide for one of my classes where it was like an introduction to who I am slide, and I had that picture.
Yes. I forgot about that. It was perfect. Totally hilarious. So that's that on that question. The coffee's kicking it. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about what you're doing now. So you did just graduate, yay. Saw you walk across the stage, saw your family. You all have red hair, kind of crazy. Usually there's only like they all have red hair, Steven, every single one.
I saw them.
I don't think my dad does, but I'll go along with
it. But yeah, so you were talking to me a little bit about what you're doing now, but I wanted to first bring in some of your experiential learning projects that you did at HU. So you can talk about which ones, but maybe you want to start with your internship from your senior year, possibly, and then how that ties into what you enjoy doing beyond esports and as well as what you are kind of doing now and where you might see yourself going with that.
Okay. So my internship senior year, which I'm actually still working for, like temporarily, it kind of turned into like a part-time job. I worked for the YMCA as their esports director, where I set up 6 computers for them and designed their program where they're going to be playing games for any esport game. I think we selected 3 right now: Rocket League, Fortnite, and NBA 2K22. Or we're gonna wait for 23 actually, because it just got announced. But yeah, I actually within the last month, because I kept working there, the equipment came in and I have it all set up. And later today, actually, we're running our first live, like not a test. This is not a drill. We're running our first sessions today when I go in today. So pretty hyped about that. And should be a good time. It's nice to see that I stuck through my internship to the end and got to see how it turned out at the end. I'm really happy about that because I love finishing a project.
Absolutely. And I think it's an important highlight of just because esports is so new. I mean, it's less new now. Maybe it's just me because I'm in a soundbox of esports, but I think to the vast majority of people still, esports is relatively new.
Yeah.
I think that it is important to highlight that you're able to take other avenues. Like, yes, it's still part of gaming, but I mean, we have a whole esports major here at Harrisburg University, which
There's
is
a business
new.
end of esports.
There is,
which is
completely.
what I'm making use out of my business degree, compelled with the esports experience I already have, or mix it together to work in
That's
the
exactly
business end
what
of
I'm getting
esports.
at. Yeah. So there's a total business end of esports that's still like left to be developed and left to explore. And it's really great to hear that that's what you're passionate about.
It's lacking educated and experienced, or it's not. There's a lot of experienced people. It's lacking educated people with experience. So if you are good in the realm of esports and you can be educated, you are going to be a high value pickup in the space for sure.
Yeah, and that's great advice for those who are looking to get more into esports, who maybe don't want to do the gaming side so much, but still love the whole sport. I guess you can totally draw the lines between other traditional types of sports and the different roles that they play, as well. So, I think my final question to you before I pass it back over to Steven, see if he has anything else, is now that you're working in this space, do you see yourself where do you see yourself moving forward in the future, or do you have like an overarching plan? And with that, do you have any advice to those who might be looking to do what you're doing now?
So my plan, I'd say it's more of my goal. Because my plan is just more broad. My goal is to try to work in the collegiate esports space. So I've been applying to a couple jobs, and I'm hoping to hear back from them soon. I might actually hear back from one tomorrow, which I'm excited about. Hopefully it's a yes, because it's something I really want to do, and I'm not going to go into detail about that on the podcast, but I'm going to talk to you guys about it in private if you wanted to. But and then my long-term goal is really to just like kind of just get a job in esports in general. But if I can't, I can use, since esports is such like a niche thing, I still have my standard business degree that I can always fall back on to just get just a regular job. If I can't make it in esports, I can still fall back on that degree that I have that security that I can probably get a job with what I learned here at HU. So very happy and fortunate to have that.
Yeah, totally. And I'll add like a secondary advice question onto that one before I pass it back over to Steven. Um, so as you said, you have like the traditional esports degree. What is your advice to those who are looking to get into esports and also looking to start college? Would you, in your opinion, advise to look for a university that has a good esports degree or esports program over a business degree? Or would you like say, hey, you should get an esports degree and also have a good esports program? What are your thoughts on that?
Just to go back to correct you, I have a MIBA degree. I think you said you have the traditional esports degree.
You know what I meant.
I know what you meant, but the viewers might.
Yes, for clarity.
But which is important for me to answer your question so that I know I have the business degree. My opinion, but you can't really quote me on that since I'm not a person in the hiring field right now, and I haven't actually gotten a job yet. So maybe I'm wrong. My thought process is, if you have a lot of esports experience already, I think you should get a business degree rather than going for an esports degree. But if you're kind of like an esports novice, you want to learn more about the craft, I think getting that esports degree might help you a lot if you want to specifically get a job in esports. I think it'll help you. But if you already have all that knowledge about esports because of things you've done in your past, or whatever, I think getting a business degree might work out better for you, or and some other degree that's in the field of esports.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense to me, but again, would want to hear from.
Just because you get that safety net of my degree isn't labeled esports, you can get a job somewhere else even if it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Thank you for that, Jason. Steven, over to you.
Okay, so I think I only have two questions, and it kind of aligns into more esports related stuff because, well, for context for people, my understanding of esports kind of is a little better than Marilyn's, I would say, because I've kind of been more of a watcher for a long time, but then I became more interested in understanding like the
Marilyn's a gamer.
background of. I know she's a gamer for sure. Like she can't hide League from me. Like I know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but like for me personally, in my esports experience, I started with Call of Duty because that's just how I was playing a lot as a kid. So I would watch competitive Call of Duty, and then seeing where it's at now, its own little franchise and all that's pretty cool, but it still has its own problems, stuff like that. So my thing that I wanted to kind of ask you about is, how important is it, because this is kind of because I'm just more curiosity, right? So LAN, for those who don't know what LAN means, I think it's local area network. That's what it stands for. So have so the thing is with LANs nowadays, because LANs back then they were just consoles and you just connect up, but now it's like your PC. So you can consider like an online LAN. So do you can still consider LANs like actual LANs, or like it's just like a okay, it's as close as we're gonna get to LAN since we're in person.
We're gonna
Like
call it as close as you can get to a LAN, because to get a LAN in most games, I know specifically like Overwatch, for example, you need like super special permission from the game developer to be even able to access the LAN technology for that game.
right.
So it's really, a LAN is more about the experience of having all these teams fly in and stay in some city together and compete.
Right. And that's why I asked, because I know like a lot of like competitors who played like before the age of PCs and stuff like that, like the veterans of the scene, they always complain about how these aren't real lands. But it's like, I mean, dude, you gotta
Well,
understand
a lot of the
when.
pro games, when they are able to get in person, since
Mhm.
the pro league is way more, it's way more incorporated with the game developer already. They can actually get that LAN technology. So like, maybe not in the land of COVID because, you know, complications,
Right.
stuff, but before then, in Overwatch, I know it was super. Every game on Overwatch was, every pro game in the Overwatch League was played on LAN in the past. I don't know about anymore. I am out of the loop on that specific, at least. But
Right.
season 1 for sure, every game played on a LAN.
Okay. Yeah, because I was always curious about that, and I just wanted more clarification on that. Because I know depending on the game we talk about, it could vary. Because some games they have the access to it, some games they they claim they do, but they don't. Kind of a lot of places now try to incorporate the PC because the PC has better settings that makes it better for the game. But like, I feel like for a pro player, remembering to do all those settings to go on a PC to put on that, you're not gonna remember all that stuff unless you have a checklist. I'm just be honest. So I just wanted to ask about that. And then my last question was this gonna be like, I mean, um, so you basically play competitive for all 4 of your years. Um, I guess what was like the icing on the cake for you? What was like your favorite competitive game you played during your time at HU, if you remember? Because I know you play a lot of games.
Semifinals match versus Maryville University in Houston, Texas for the playoffs, and it should have been the finals match because us and Maryville were the best teams, but weird seeding and stuff, we got placed in the same side of the bracket as them, so we met them in semifinals. So that win felt like the trophy win for me. It was one of the most memorable and greatest moments of my life. There's probably literally videos out there of me jumping up and down, cheering for joy with my team. Um,
And and then just so everyone knows on the podcast, we're gonna show you a little clip of that as it's proceeding, him jumping
yeah,
up
if you
and
can
down.
find it, good luck.
I know I can find it. Don't trust me, I can find it. Don't worry. So right now, as we're talking right now on YouTube, as you guys are seeing, there's a video of him jumping up and down with his team, cheering joys. Trust me, we'll find the video. Don't worry about it. Um,
What
because
if you
I will
don't
find.
find it? You're gonna disappoint the crowd.
No, no, no. Then I'll find a photo. Look. You gotta understand.
Alright.
We have
I'm in the
connections.
yeah, like look, I'm in the field of finding stuff on social media. Like we'll find it. We'll find it. Trust. You already told me
If you need
somebody.
some help, I'll help you.
Hey, look. I appreciate it. Just don't worry. I'm gonna get you there. We're gonna expose you. Don't worry. But I mean, that's awesome to hear that you remember that clearly. Because I'm gonna be honest, most people, but not. Well, I mean, it's one of your highlights, so I gotta you gotta do remember that. So that's dope to hear, and we're definitely gonna see that for sure. But with that being said, that's all the questions I have for you. Marilyn, any questions for you? If not, we'll just kind of close it out.
All right, no further questions from me. Jason, thanks for having you on the pod today. Glad to hear from you more about your collegiate esports experience and what you're doing now. As always, HU Flow Podcast will be available on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and way more down in the description. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, today. As always, I'm Marilyn, that's Steven, and today you heard from Jason Niddle, Overwatch champion at Harrisburg University. So
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.
Peace out.